We are so afraid of the shame that comes up with the desire for more, the desire for fulfillment, the desire for joy. We're so afraid of this because we've been taught that if we are fulfilled and full of joy, if we are wealthy, abundant, and in love, then we're selfish. Then we are people who ask for too much. How dare we try and be so happy when so many people are not? This is old thinking. This is a belief system that has to die.
Hi, I'm Colleen Nelson, licensed therapist, trauma expert, and fellow badass woman ready to rise up right alongside you. This podcast, Let the Rest Burn, is for the woman who has ignored, attacked, or even silenced her inner voice because she thought it was broken and needed to be fixed. It's for the woman who is ready to rise up and fully step into her desire, her joy, her full power, and make the impact she was destined to make. For the woman who cannot stand one more second waiting, watching, and witnessing the world crumble and is ready to rebuild and expand into a better future. For a woman who is so done trying to fix the world, she decided to start with healing herself, and she let the rest burn.
Welcome back to Let the Rest Burn. Today and this month, we're going to be talking about the shadow archetype, the martyr. Now, in this definition, I am not using the definition of having to sacrifice your life for someone else or a belief system, as in your physical, actual life. I'm talking about sacrificing your needs, your wants, your desires, your, in essence, non-physical life. You're still actually physically alive, but you are sacrificing all of the other components in order to prove your love to the rest of the world and probably even to yourself. Now, the martyr is such an interesting shadow archetype because as a mother and as a woman, I am glorified when I step into this archetype, right? Mothers are supposed to sacrifice themselves for their children. That is the comment I get on almost every one of the reels I make. Well, I'm a mother and I would sacrifice for my children. Well, I'm a mother and my needs are second to my children's needs. Here's the thing, everyone. If it was a life or death situation and I had to either save my children or save myself, I would save my children without even a second's hesitancy. But newsflash, it's not always a life or death situation. If I'm deciding to meet my own needs, take some space for myself, prioritize my mental health or my well-being, take some physical space for my own body, take a trip for me, I am not putting my child in harm's way because I am taking care of myself. But oftentimes that is the way that we feel, that if we choose our needs and it makes our child uncomfortable, maybe sad, maybe they miss us, maybe they struggle a little bit with the choice, then we're a bad mom or a bad person. Right? The same can go for, caring for your parents or a best friend or a partner. Well, I must not love them very much, or I must be self-centered or selfish if I choose to meet my own needs and it makes you uncomfortable. Y'all, you cannot fill from an empty cup. You cannot love somebody if your love is empty. In fact, all you're giving them is a sense of shame and guilt and resentment and this icky energetic feeling of you showing up even though you don't want to. I don't know if y'all have experienced this in life. I know I have. I've experienced people showing up when they don't want to, and it doesn't feel good. I don't want them to be there unless it's a life or death situation where I need them to be there or I'm going to die. There is no need for them to sacrifice on behalf of the love they have for me. Right? We're not talking there's one slice of bread left and who's going to go hungry. Okay, that's not the conversation we're having here, but yet we always bring it back to that same survivalistic process because you know what? For thousands of years, humans did live that way. Mothers and fathers did have to sacrifice sometimes their own well-being in life to keep their children alive. Not all of us live that way anymore. Yes, in parts of the world that is still happening. But for most of you who are here listening to my podcast, I'm going to guess that that is not the situation you're living in. So I really want you to pull into this shadow and take a deep breath because we get so defensive the moment that this shadow gets brought up. The moment I start talking about it, we come up with all sorts of reasons and all sorts of excuses as to why this shadow is valid. Look, this shadow is created out of a societal norm, out of the idea that in order to prove my love to you, I have to self-sacrifice. And that if I don't love you. That is such a twisted belief. And yet a lot of us buy into it subconsciously without even knowing. The martyr archetype comes along and it makes excuses as to why you cannot choose yourself. You cannot say no. You cannot grow. Because if you do any of those things, you're going to hurt the people that you love. Sometimes the people that you love do need to be hurt. Sometimes that hurt is just growth. It's just discomfort. You're not actually harming them. You're just actually no longer enabling their poor behavior. This is a prolific problem everywhere. Parents enabling their kids learning these behaviors, partners enabling each other. We're so afraid to be honest and to share the truth about what our needs are and aren't, and what our desires are and aren't, and what we can do and can't do. We're so scared to tell the truth because we're afraid it's going to leave us alone. We're afraid that it's going to hurt the people we care about the most in a way that is unforgivable. We are so afraid of the shame that comes up with the desire for more, the desire for fulfillment, the desire for joy. We're so afraid of this because we've been taught that if we are fulfilled and full of joy, if we are wealthy, abundant, and in love, then we're selfish. Then we are people who have asked for too much. How dare we try and be so happy when so many people are not? This is old thinking. This is a belief system that has to die because my happiness, my fulfillment does not harm you. In fact, it only enhances your capacity for fulfillment, joy, and happiness. We think that abundance is scarce. We feel like in order for me to have more of the pie, I have to take yours. There's enough to go around for everyone, truly. And the people who are truly selfish, truly greedy, they're not the ones who are looking for more love, more happiness, or taking care of their needs. They're the ones that are afraid that if they share it, it will be taken from them. Being a martyr is not a stamp of pride anymore. I love my children with every ounce of my being, but I will not martyr myself on their behalf because that burden that I place on their shoulders, that is a generational burden. I am not going to live my life in misery so that they can live theirs, knowing that I was miserable so that they could be okay. Remember, we are no longer in a position where there's one slice of bread left and I have to decide who goes hungry. This isn't the conversation. It's not, would I save myself over my children? It's, we are all saved. We are all relatively healthy. We have a good amount of well-being. And so I get to also be healthy and thrive. And it's so challenging because I know so many of you are like, but wait a second, I stayed up late to feed my child. I woke up in the middle of the night. I do things I don't want to do every single day for them. So there's a level of compromise here, my dears. This is not about not putting your kids' needs first. It's about recognizing that you get to have needs as well. That sure, I will go out in the cold, windy weather and help them fly a kite when the last thing I want to do is be out there helping them fly a kite. But I'm not going to do that and then also not take myself out for a girls' day and also not get sleep and also not take a shower and also not eat and also deny that I even in the first place didn't want to be in the cold, right? It's like we can't have this conversation with ourselves around what is reasonable and not reasonable in terms of how to meet others' needs and how to meet our own. There's always going to be a bit of discomfort when you decide to meet your own need because we're not taught that that's okay. We're not taught that we deserve love, happiness, fulfillment, joy, and we get to be parents and we get to be partners. This is a new concept. This is something we are reclaiming now. And I know some of you are wrestling internally with this as I'm saying this out loud and you're like, Colleen, I don't like this. I don't like this feeling. You're telling me I can say no? You're telling me that I can say yes to things that are going to make my kids sad or disappointed? You're telling me that I can say yes to things that's going to make my partner frustrated with me because it makes me feel good? Yes, that's what I'm saying, right? I'm saying that if you want to take yourself out for a nice date on the town by yourself, and your kids are sad because you don't tuck them in that night, and your partner's sad because you don't want to bring them, but what you really crave is a night by yourself where nobody talks to you, I'm telling you that not only is that okay, but you should do it every other week. Because here's the thing, you're going to go home after a night like that. You're going to love on your partner like they haven't been loved on in weeks. And you're going to wake up with those kids refreshed and ready to start the day. This is something that I think we forget. We forget that the more we take care of ourselves, the more likely it is we're able to qualify our love with so much more depth and so much more truth and understanding. Our mothers and our mothers' mothers and their mothers' mothers didn't necessarily have the opportunity to do this because they were in survival mode. They were. And maybe some of you are. Maybe some of you are in survival mode and you say, Colleen, right now I do have one slice of bread and I'm going to give it to my kids. And I hear you and I see you and I understand. But for those of you that are not, there is no reason that the martyr archetype has to define your life and be your sense of pride and how you show up in the world and how you love the people in your life the best. So I'm challenging you with this shadow archetype here. I'm challenging you to recognize that you can love somebody and you don't have to self-sacrifice your own needs to do so. In fact, you shouldn't. And those that ask you to do that are typically unhealthy, even if they're family. This is a topic I won't stop talking about. This is a topic that, Glennon Doyle talks about this in her book Untamed, which is what this podcast is named after. And it was one of the most profound paragraphs I've ever read. And it really talks about why being a martyr does not serve future generations. It doesn't actually help us with the things that we want and we need and the things that are important. It just teaches our children to do the same. So ask yourself today, is there a need that you're ignoring? Is there a desire that you've silenced? Is there something that you've been doing that you no longer want to do anymore? Be brave, be courageous, be vulnerable, and make a different choice. Take the leap, say no, or say yes. But know that we are all alongside you, supporting you in the reclamation of yourself. So step fully into who the fuck you are meant to be and let the rest burn.
Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every single second that you chose to set aside for you and the impact that you're going to have on the world today. To be inspired, to be seen, and to hold space starts with the very actions we take with ourselves. Look at the show notes for more information. Like and subscribe and share with friends if you feel inspired to. And as always, let the rest burn.